Welcome to the Monmouth County Rutgers Cooperative Extension Bringing Home the Harvest series. My name is Rachel Tansey, and I am a Senior Extension Associate with the Department of Family and Community Health Sciences. Tonight, I will be going over the different health and nutrition aspects on a variety of our New Jersey harvest. In addition, we will have two guest speakers joining us. From our Rutgers Master Gardener program, Jane Sims will be educating us on magnificent marigolds, including their edibility. And Virginia Krzyzanowski from our 4-H department will be discussing apples and the fun activities in kitchen science. Before we move on, I just want to go over a few webinar logistics. First of all, this webinar is being recorded, and as participants, you are all muted and your videos are turned off. Please post any technical questions you may have in the chat box, and if you have any questions for any of the presenters, please post those in the Q&A section, and we'll have time at the end of the presentation to field those questions. So without further ado, let's get started. So as I mentioned, this is our Bringing Home the Harvest series. We had one evening last week discussing the introduction to each of our departments, but it is a collaboration of different departments, including the Agriculture Department, our Master Gardener program, our 4-H department, and then Family and Community Health Sciences to come together and bring to you a series of programs throughout the month of October. Each Wednesday night, we will have a program discussing the different aspects of the New Jersey harvest and our collaboration among each department. So tonight, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about the nutrition aspects of our New Jersey harvest. Here is a chart that shows the different fruits and vegetables that are readily available in New Jersey during the fall months. As you can see, I've circled some of the areas that might be, more readily available. Apples, obviously, we're very familiar with the pick your own apple orchards. Cranberries, New Jersey is well known for that. Lots of dark green leafy vegetables, arugula, cabbage, lots of chard and dandelion greens, things like that. Even some eggplants will go into the fall months. Peppers, potatoes, obviously some pumpkins and squash, and even, you might get a few tomatoes come October. So if we're going out picking our own, how do we know what to look for? If we have a bountiful harvest that we'd like to come home with and go to some of these pick your own places, really what you should be looking for any of your produce would be that the shape isn't necessarily your determining factor. If it's a little off or kind of looks a little funny, that's probably fine. The item will probably still be delicious. However, you want to make sure that the skin is unblemished, and you really don't want any soft spots or black areas or any of those quirky bits on any of the products you're looking at. Choose the item that you're looking for as it should smell as you would think. Kind of earthy, you don't want a moldy or a rotten smell. These are a few pictures from some of our local Monmouth County orchards. Obviously, we have many apple orchards. We have some pick your own orchards and things with the corn in the background there, but then you can also see the squash and the gourds, and then the pumpkins on the right. So what are the health benefits of fruit and vegetables? Well, actually, most fruits and vegetables have anything and lots of different variety of vitamins. I'm not sure what's happening, so it's connecting to my audio. So we would like to discuss some of the phytochemicals. These are the natural plant compounds that give the produce its bright color and a variety of different health benefits. We also need to look at how those phytochemicals serve to benefit us in the antioxidant area. These neutralize free radicals to prevent cell damage, which can lead to heart disease and cancers. And these antioxidants will also enhance our immune response, also possibly cause cancer cells to die, and repair some of the DNA damage caused by toxic compounds and detoxify carcinogens. So why should we eat those fruits and vegetables? Well, overall, basically for our health. We want to reduce the risks of certain diseases like cancer and heart disease and different types of diabetes like type 2 diabetes and obesity. We want to have a higher fiber intake, so that actually helps lower our calories and aid in digestion, keeping us full for a longer period of time.
Ready? Everybody, STEM team, Renee, are you ready? Is everybody ready? Okay, Higgins, Do the thing. Ready? Oh, do the thing.
Not sure if you hear some background noise, sorry. We also have vitamin A content, we have potassium, and we have vitamin C. So all of these things really help keep our bodies in general health up to par. They're also low in fat, sodium, and calcium. Sodium and calories. So in our different food groups, we have many different colors. We talk about eating a rainbow. I'm not talking about Skittles or M&Ms for that matter. I'm talking about eating a rainbow of different fruits and vegetables. So in our red group, the little picture there is actually cranberries, and New Jersey is known for our cranberry bogs. Also, you can find things like tomatoes, red peppers, strawberries, anything in those food coloring groups. Typically, we're talking about the fleshy part that we're eating as being the color of the food. Something like an apple does also have red, but also has white on the inside. So that kind of falls into two categories. Our red group is very good for our heart health, our memory, our urinary tract, and reducing some risks of cancers. Our purple and blue group, again, blueberries, blackberries, grapes. Some of these fall into, you'll have red grapes, which kind of are purpley. You might also have green grapes. So those would fall into our green group. But here we're looking at healthy aging. We're looking at our memory function and keeping better memories, our urinary tract function, preventing possibly clogged arteries and reducing the risks of some cancer. Our yellow and orange group, here we're looking at our heart health again. We're looking at night vision. We're looking at our immune system and some of our cancers. I often like to tell the kids when I talk to them, they get superpowers from here because you get a lot of beta carotene in our yellow and orange group. And kind of that thing you get at night when you have to get up and let's say go to the bathroom and you don't want to turn on the light and you can see in the dark, that actually is your night vision. And if you don't have enough of these yellows and oranges in your diet, that actually diminishes a bit. So it's really important to make sure we get a variety of colors, meaning our carrots and sweet potatoes, maybe mangoes, cantaloupe, anything in the yellow and orange group. We also have a green group, so that helps our eye health and possibly prevention of cataracts and macular degeneration. We have here our collards, any of our green leafy vegetables. We have kiwi, green grapes, as I mentioned earlier, and green peppers, broccoli, etc. Our white group, not a lot of people think about fruits and vegetables as being white, but we do. This picture is of parsnips, and we have benefit of our heart health and reducing some cancers. And as you can see in the list, there's actually quite a few different white fruits and vegetables. Again, the fleshy part. So banana may be yellow, but the part we're eating is white, so it falls in our white category. We have cauliflower, jicama, turnips, and things like that. So some of our more popular pick-your-owns in New Jersey, obviously our apples, very popular. Again, the picture on the right is from one of our orchards, getting the red Rome apples. And a variety of colors apples are grown. So we have yellows, we have pinks, greens, red, and all shades in between. Did you know there's actually over 7,500 varieties of apples grown throughout the world? 2,500 varieties are grown in the United States, and all 50 states actually do grow apples. Our top producing states are actually Washington, New York, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. So New Jersey itself, we actually grow about 30 of those varieties. I just put about a dozen here of some of the more popular varieties, but I'm sure depending on the orchards you go to, you may find many of the others as well. So how good are apples for your health anyway? So it really depends on what you're using them for and which ones are best. If you're really looking for something satisfying and you're kind of really hungry in the moment and need a quick snack, just a raw apple is very thirst quenching, deliciously crunchy when eaten raw. However, if you're looking to bake with apples, you're probably going to look for maybe some more of the tart varieties because you might add a sweetener in there and you don't really want to have the competition between a sweet variety of an apple with the sweetness of what you're adding in your baking. So there is the old adage, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. I'm not sure how true that actually is. However, what I can tell you is the nutritional benefit of an apple, a medium-sized apple is roughly the size of your fist, is about only 80 calories and without any fat, cholesterol, or sodium. So one apple actually has about 5 grams of fiber, and that provides about 20% of your daily fiber recommendation for the day. In addition, it's a great source of energy to keep you focused on your tasks at hand. Typically speaking, the amount of energy you get from an apple can be equated to what you might get in a cup of caffeine because it's a different type of energy and your body will use it more effectively. Some snack ideas. We like to say apple juice or apple cider is a good source of hydration. However, I do recommend to limit the intake because it can be high in sugars, albeit natural sugars, but still sugars. Be sure it is 100% juice, because if it is not, it may be higher in other added sugars. Another little snack, maybe on a cold fall night, is to warm your apples. Slice up an apple, sprinkle with a little cinnamon or pumpkin pie spice or something like that. Put it in the microwave for 30 seconds or longer, depending on your preference, and it's sort of a reminiscent of a little apple pie. Apple slices with a nut butter or even cheese and pretzels is a great healthy snack. And often in our house, we make some homemade applesauce. Very simple recipe, just cut up the apples, and I often leave the skins on because you get more nutrition in the skin. And we just basically put them in a pot with a little bit of water just to help get them going, and cook and cook and cook them for a good, long while until you see basically they're kind of getting really mushy, and you want to kind of keep pressing them down with maybe a potato masher. We add some spices like cinnamon or pumpkin pie spice, maybe a splash of lemon juice, but really we don't add any sugar to it. And then I just take my immersion blender and blend them up, and we have basically homemade applesauce. So pumpkins and squash pack a big punch. Our immune system is often boosted if we eat these types of fruits. Half a cup is loaded with immune boosting nutrients and vitamins such as the alpha and beta carotene, as I was mentioning earlier, vitamin C and vitamin A. Fewer calories to feel fuller, so again, full of fiber. Here we have about a half a cup of canned pumpkin, has about 5 grams of fiber and only 40 calories. To give you a little frame of reference, a sandwich with 2 slices of whole wheat bread, which is the bread that we would recommend, whole wheat, still has only 4 grams of fiber and 140 calories. So it's a little bit of a difference there, that you will get more fiber and less calories from your pumpkin. Also, again, the eye health works double duties on our eyes, helping us to prevent different types of cataracts and macular degeneration through the carotenoid antioxidants. So also keeping your ticker in check, an excellent source of potassium, pumpkin helps keep our blood pressure regulated and can reduce the risk of stroke and heart disease. Cancer fighting, the carotenoids and antioxidants found in pumpkin or any squash really promote reduced risk of breast, lung, and other cancers. And then also building strong bones. With each delicious bite, you will give your body additional calcium to build strong bones and even defend against rheumatoid arthritis. So what about the greens? In the autumn months, during the fall here in New Jersey, you can often find things like lettuces, kale, broccoli, cabbage, collards, dandelions, and many other greens. The nutritional benefits of these greens are that they are loaded with vitamins and minerals. They're keeping our bodies healthy and strong. Antioxidants, and again, those phytochemicals. I often like to use the word fight, F-I-G-H-T, with my young crowd because that helps us fight against certain diseases and cancers. Fiber, very chock full of fiber, helps slow digestion and keep us full. And then also they have a good water content to keep us hydrated. So you can see the pictures here on the right, just some suggestions on how to add more greens into your diet using lettuce wraps or putting broccoli on pizza. Pizza can be a health food if you build it up with lots of good vegetables on top. And also at the bottom there, you see, our zoodles, where you take a zucchini or a squash and kind of spiralize it so it gets to be kind of noodles, or using lettuce cups. So why are they so powerful? As I mentioned, they are loaded with vitamins and minerals. So vitamin C helps us in our immune system fight infections. So obviously it's kind of the season that we need to make sure that our immune systems are as strong as they can be. It also helps build protective proteins in our bodies. So a handful of spinach contains about 28 milligrams of vitamin C. That's more than a third of what is recommended for our daily intake. Vitamin K is responsible for clotting our blood, which slows and stops bleedings for cuts and scrapes and things like that. And a handful of spinach there contains about 482 micrograms of vitamin K. That's well over the recommended daily amount. Also packed full of minerals, we have iron. Iron helps move oxygen from our lungs throughout the body, and it is needed for our overall health and energy levels. A handful of spinach contains about 2.71 milligrams of iron. And, I'm sure many people didn't even realize that many of our dark green leafy vegetables do have iron in them. And calcium, also found in our dark green leafy vegetables, is helping us build strong bones and teeth. A handful of spinach contains about 99 milligrams of calcium, but we do also need vitamin D in order for our body to absorb that calcium. So again, some of the pictures here, you see some kale up on the top left, again, a lettuce wrap, and even a green smoothie. Oftentimes, you know, if you put greens in your smoothies, and especially if you add a banana, but most other things that you're adding in there, you don't even taste the greens. So really, I would just like to challenge everyone here. Try something new. Look at the colorful fruits and vegetables that we have, especially here in New Jersey. Jersey Fresh is one of our biggest things. We have grown in Monmouth. We'd like to promote and have everyone visit one of your local farms and challenge you to pick a food from a variety of different color categories and maybe try to have something new each week. So with that being said, I will stop sharing my screen and I would ask Jane to come on, as she is going to start our next.
Hi.
Oh, so
I'm
please
going to share my screen.
Yep. And I will mute myself and stop my video.
Okay. Whoa. Let's start that again. Hi, my name is Jane Sims. I'm a Rutgers Master Gardener and also a 4-H leader and advisor in the Globe Tasters STEP program. Today we're going to be speaking about magnificent marigolds. The Herb Society of America defines herbs as plants which are valued historically, presently, or potentially for their flavor, fragrance, medicinal qualities, insecticidal qualities, coloring material, that can be used economically or industrial. Our marigolds number more than 50 varieties in the genus Tagetes, and they possess all of these qualities. The Tagetes derives its name from the Etruscan deity Tages, who sprung out of a field. He's the grandson of Jupiter as it was being plowed. These are the three main varieties of marigolds. The French marigold, Latin name Tagetes patula, the pot marigold, Latin name Calendula officinalis, and the African marigold Tagetes erecta. And despite their exotic names, all marigolds are actually native to the New World and were just brought to the European world and in Asia with the explorers. These are the true marigold's main varieties. Marigolds are best grown in well-drained soil. Once established in a sunny spot, they will bloom all summer and even add color to your fall gardens. You could see here in this picture that the African varieties are actually 3 feet tall with 4-inch blooms. Marigolds are a great choice for beginning and young gardeners because they will tolerate small amounts of abuse and neglect. They are colorful, easy to grow, and easy to start from seed. The flowers are edible and fun to taste. These are the triploids. They're hybrids. They do not set seeds, but they do have the longest bloom. Generally speaking, marigolds are free from pests and disease. Their fragrance is quite sharp. But as companion plants, marigolds are an organic gardener's best friend because they help keep slugs off food crops. Slugs have a weakness. They adore marigolds. So instead of chomping on your veggies, they'll head over to the marigolds and feast there. But there is a beware here because the fruit roots of some marigolds secrete a substance that kills our beneficial nematodes. So you should never plant them near legumes or brassicas. And in this picture on the top, this is the French variety, which runs about 1 foot tall with 2-inch blooms. And the Cygnets are single petal marigolds, which are edible and have a citrusy aroma. Now here's the Tagetes hybrid. It's the Calendula. It's actually a pot marigold and technically not a marigold at all. Although like marigolds, they are members of the sunflower family. An ornamental or decorative plant, marigolds add a bright spot of color to the garden. Whole plants of marigolds are harvested when flowering and dried for further use. Strung together, they make colorful garlands and are used as offerings or to decorate religious buildings and statues. Marigolds are used the world over for culinary purposes. Just steep 2 teaspoons of marigold petals in 8 ounces of boiling water, and you will yield a brightly hued brew. The fresh flowers may be added to salads or used as edible garnish. They provide a bitter taste, which can be very helpful when balancing out an overly sweet dish. You could chop the fresh leaves and use them to season chicken and green salads. And actually, chickens enjoy the culinary benefits of this herb because when the blooms are dried, they put them in the chicken's feed, and that will enhance their egg color, their egg yolk color. The marigold variety that delivers the health benefits is the pot marigold or the calendula. The flowers of the calendula marigold have been used for centuries for their therapeutic benefit. French marigolds and single cultivars are known to attract pollinators, such as butterflies and bees. Their flowers provide nectar and pollen. Marigolds have thick, fibrous roots and can be used as a cover crop or as a living mulch to protect the soil. They grow thickly and then die back on their own. When they do, the soil becomes enriched with the biomass. Marigolds are aromatic. Most are sharp smelling. This odor can be either pungent or pleasant. As such, the pungent odor is sometimes believed to repel unwanted visitors, such as whiteflies, cabbage worms, and tomato hornworms. Use marigolds in crafts as a natural dye by soaking the petals in hot water to color egg, fabric, and more. Dry their petals and add them to potpourri. They're very useful for so many things. This is a beautiful picture of the Mexican mint marigold or cloud marigold. It's actually a culinary substitute for tarragon. If you chop the leaves, you could use them to flavor chicken or fish and salads. I came across a lovely recipe where you would take a fish and wrap it in foil and add the marigold leaves to it, and it gives it a nice flavor. You could toss these into soup. You can weave them into your hair or in circlets. You could add fragrance to sachets. And according to legend, the Aztec chieftains actually used it to calm the sacrificial victims. The Cygnet marigolds are valued as edible. They impart a lemony flavor to salads, pasta, and vegetable dishes. But beware people with allergies, because you need to exercise caution when eating these in salads. This is the dried calendula. It can be dried, shredded, and used as a color saffron in cooking. It's known as the Serrano dei Poveri, which really means the poor man's saffron. I found that very interesting. Marigolds are used in symbolism in both religious and celebratory occasions. At Indian weddings, the marigolds are believed to bring down divine blessings upon the newly married couple. In the Mexican Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, marigolds are believed to guide the spirits to the altar created by their loved ones. There are also healing properties to marigolds. It's such a versatile herb. The 2 separate species of this herb, known as marigold, are actually both edible, but will get different results with the 2. One is medicinal and not very flavorful. The other makes a nice salad ingredient, but is not a healing agent. The National Institute of Health explains that the marigolds found in most home gardens are of the Tagetes variety, which are mostly ornamental. The marigold that delivers the health benefits is the calendula, as you can see in these pictures. There are store-bought remedies to help with eye, digestive, immune boosting, skin infection, and fungal treatments because they contain flavonoids, terpenoids, lutein, and xanthan. They are both analgesic and antibacterial. Evidence suggests that lutein and zeaxanthin reduce the risk of diseases in eyes. And of course, many people decide and choose to create their own homemade remedies or treatments to use as soothing sunburn, warts, bites, acne, ulcerations, and dry skin and blisters. I hope you enjoyed this little journey into the magnificent marigold field. I've developed a profound respect for this herb and hope you have too. I would like to thank Kathy Delhagen for her invaluable research in this project, and I'd like to thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Jane. That was great. Lots of homeopathic remedies and information on the marigolds and the herb that I honestly didn't really know before. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm going to introduce Virginia right now, and she's going to come on and share our screen as well. Hi, Virginia.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Jane and I are going to mute and turn off our cameras. Take it away.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Virginia Krzyzanowski, the Monmouth County 4-H Program Associate, and I'm here tonight to represent the youth and to give everyone, young and old alike, some fun activities that you can do with apples. It's the right time of year for apples and apple picking, so let's get started. This is my favorite apple, but really it's a gourd. So if you look at it, it's been made into a birdhouse and just painted to look like an apple. But I thought that was kind of fun, so I wanted to share it with you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now and open up my PowerPoint. Okay. And we'll get started. Okay, so my program's titled, How About Them Apples? And I'm representing Rutgers Cooperative Extension of Monmouth County. And what is Cooperative Extension? What we do in the county is we take research-based information from Rutgers University and we share it with the residents of our county. So tonight, we're going to do a little research ourselves. Okay, so Rachel mentioned earlier the saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, in 4-H, we have a 4-H pledge that you pledge your head to clearer thinking, your heart to greater loyalty, and your hands to larger service. And the 4th H is for my health for better living. And you can see there the symbol is an apple. So the saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, originated in Wales in 1866. And it originally sounded like, eat an apple on going to bed and you'll keep the doctor from earning his bread. But in 1913, they changed it to our current saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So here's our doctor. Okay, so we talked about Rutgers and research. And I wanted to share with you that Rutgers has a fruit research station right here in Monmouth County. It's in Cream Ridge, and they're currently working on a new program on hazelnuts. But they also have another farm called Snyder Farm. And that, if you look to the left, you can see the feeding the soul and sharing our harvest. And that was enjoying a Honeycrisp apple from Snyder Farms. And I didn't know if you were aware, but Rutgers was involved with the research and the hybridization of the Honeycrisp apple. And it's one of the most popular apples now that people enjoy. And just to remind everyone how important bees are, especially our youngsters, did you know that bees are the only insect that produce food for people? And so the Honeycrisp is honey and sweet, just like the honeybees. Okay, so this is a challenge for everyone. Can you name the 6 parts of an apple? So we're going to do it together and see if we can come up with all of them. Number 1, let's see. Okay, so that would be the stem. Number 2 is the leaf. And if you're lucky, like me, and you pick an apple from the orchard, it'll actually come with the leaf on it. Most of the ones that you buy in the store, you may not have the leaf attached. Number 3, you guess what that is? That's the skin or the peel of the apple. Number 4, that's the flesh, and that's the white part, the inside of the apple. Number 6, number 5, I'm sorry, is the core, and that's the center of the apple. That's the part we don't eat. And finally, the seeds. And the seeds are located in the center of the apple in the core. So if we take an apple, which I'm going to do right now, and I ask the youngsters, what do they think the shape is inside an apple? Most people will say it's round, but we have a little surprise for you that if you cut an apple horizontally, cut it right through the center and open it up, the center design is a star, and that's the area that holds the seeds for the apple. And you can see at the bottom we have Johnny Appleseed there. Everybody thinks he was a educator and traveled around, but really he was a young entrepreneur. He sold his apple seeds and encouraged people to plant apples all over the country. So good for him. Okay, our next experiment, we're going to follow the scientific method. So we have a hypothesis. What is our question? And our question is, will an apple sink or float? What do you think? So our prediction is, you make your prediction. You decide, do you think it's going to float or do you think it's going to sink? So we're going to do the experiment now. I have a bowl of water here, if you can see it, an empty bowl of water. And I'm going to drop one of my apples in and we'll see what happens. So can you see that the apple is floating? And why do you think an apple would float? It's a heavy piece of fruit compared to other things like a grape or something smaller. Why would this apple float? So when you do an experiment, you want to observe and record the data and then determine the conclusion. So really the conclusion is, if you do research, apples are about 25% air, which makes them less dense and able to float. And that's perfect for this time of year when Halloween comes and you do apple bobbing. Also, now let's look at the different shapes and we can create a boat. So the next experiment you can do when you have time is to cut the apple in different shapes and make a sail using paper and toothpicks and see which shapes float the best, and then draw your conclusions as to why. Okay, another challenge that's fun is the Apple Toothpick Tower Challenge. And what you're going to do is cut your apples into squares or any shape that you want and take toothpicks and time yourself. You can do it with a sibling, with an adult, or just on your own. And you're going to have a certain amount of time, maybe a minute, maybe 3 minutes to build your tower. And then when the time is up, you're going to stop and measure it. Now remember, the tower has to stay standing. That's the key part. And you're going to see whoever has the tallest tower wins. And the best part about that experiment is then you get to eat your apple afterwards, and they already have handles on them, so it's very easy. Also, another science experiment is, why do apples turn brown? So what you want to do is you want to have a tray, and I have one right here. I'll pull over and show you. And you're going to take clear cups like this, and you're going to slice an apple, and you're going to put an apple in each one of the cups. You'll have 5 cups. And 1 cup you're going to leave empty. You're going to have nothing in it, and that's called your control. It's just going to be the slice of apple by itself. And then in the next one, you're going to add baking soda. In the next, you'll add lemon juice. Another one, you'll add vinegar. And in the last cup, you'll add milk. And then you're going to record your data. You're going to time it. And you'll say every 15 minutes, you'll look at the apples and observe. You'll number your cups and observe what happens. And you can do this for up to 2 hours and record your data. And then at the end, you're going to have your hypothesis. You're going to draw your conclusion. Was what you thought happened correct or not? So if you look at the apple here, you're going to see where the bite was originally. When you first bite into an apple, it's nice and white and bright, but after you leave it for a while, it turns brown. So you can try this experiment on your own. And the reason it turns brown, you'll find, is that an apple has an enzyme in it that's called PPO, and it causes the flesh or the white part of the apple to turn brown when it comes in contact with oxygen. So as long as the skin is sealed on the apple is going to stay white. But as soon as there's a blemish, a little mark in the apple, you'll notice if the skin gets a little nick in it, you'll notice it turns brown around that on the inside. You get a bruise, they call it. Or when you bite into it, that's when the oxygen reacts with the enzyme and causes the apple to turn brown. So you're going to try this experiment at home and see which one of the chemicals reacts and what occurs. Which one keeps the apple from turning brown? And you can try lots of different things. Look at Isaac Newton there. He loves his apple. Okay, and then I want you to have some fun. What do your parents always tell you when you sit down at the table? To eat right and don't play with your food. Well, I'm telling you, don't listen to them for this part of my activity. I want you to play with your food, and you can create a creature, spooky or not, it's up to you. It can be something like these creatures, or it can be something that you create your own, an imaginary creature, but just be wise about it and have fun. When you eat apples, it's a smart thing to do because it makes you healthy, just like Rachel mentioned, and also it tastes good and it's fun. So Rachel talked about cooking and making different things with apples. It's so easy and kids can cook. You need to have an adult with you when you're in the kitchen working, especially if you're using sharp knives or by an open flame or with the oven. But you can make applesauce, and you buy it in the store. You can get any brand of applesauce, but making it yourself, especially with the apples that have turned a little soft, is perfect and easy. I do it all the time. And also, it's very easy to find recipes for apple butter. Apple butter is really popular this time of year. And that's brown and rich and buttery. So those are two things that you can do in the kitchen, simple recipes. You can also bake, which is getting more involved. And Rachel did talk about in the center here is the baked apple with the cinnamon. This one has some nuts in it. And that's very delicious. And of course, our American tradition of apple pie, and there's all different ways to make apple pie. And also you can make apple bread or apple cake. So you can bake, and don't be afraid to try it. And last but not least, for the non-healthy part, don't forget candy apples. It's this time of year. You can do caramel, chocolate covered, the traditional candy apple, but there's a lot of different things that you can add to it. You can do whatever you like, and it's fun. It will stay. You have to keep it in the refrigerator though once you make your apple and you let it dry. So I did a little bit of research, and there's 28 places in New Jersey to pick your own apples, and 19 of them are located in Monmouth County. So there's plenty of orchards out there that you can go to. It's a great, safe, fun outdoor activity that the whole family can do. And there's all different varieties, so you can decide what kind of apples you like and what type you'd like to pick. And if you're going to plan on cooking or baking with them, I recommend you look up a recipe first so you know what kind of apple they recommend. Just like Rachel said, a lot of the baking requires tart apples. See if my screen's gonna go on. And if you have bloodshot eyes like me from spending too much time on the computer like we're doing now with Zoom meetings and all your schoolwork and visiting with friends, why not get outdoors and enjoy this beautiful weather? So for 4-H, we're going to have a Halloween party, and you're invited to it. It's going to be called Halloween from Home, and it's Thursday, October 29th at 7 o'clock. It's going to be a virtual costume party, and we're going to have lots of fun games and activities. But before we close tonight, I would just like to remind you and share a piece of advice from Snow White. So if somebody comes up to you and offers you an apple with a hat like this on and an apple like this, just say no, say you're not going to put a spell on me, and run away. But any other apple is great to eat. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, Virginia, that was awesome. You always crack me up. I love it. Thank you so much. I don't know if you remember, actually, a couple of years ago, we were doing an event, and one of the science experiments that we did was to blindfold and hold the children's noses and cut up a raw potato and a raw apple and have them try to figure out, taking a bite, which one was which. And that's another fun thing to do with kids, because it's kind of hard to tell if you can't smell. You know, the taste is kind of similar. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I want to thank everyone for joining us. And before you leave us this evening, we will have a poll for you. But I really hope everyone learned something new and enjoyed these presentations. If you do have any questions, please put them in the chat or the Q&A session. And before we move on, I would like to open our poll. Here, as a university, Rutgers learns a lot about how well we are reaching diverse audiences through polls such as these. They help to inform our department about the presentation's usefulness, which ultimately assists with future program planning. You are not required to complete this information. However, if you choose not to answer a question, please select Prefer Not to Respond. There are a total of 6 questions, so please refrain from hitting the submit button until you've completed all those questions. Thank you so much, and I'll give you a few minutes to complete. Looks like we have a little over half. So if you can please continue to do so, that would be wonderful. As you're continuing to do the poll here, we have almost 80%, so we appreciate those answers. Don't forget that next week is another presentation from different departments discussing the bountiful harvest of New Jersey. And again, that will be Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And the registration that you have for this week will also continue, so you don't have to re-register. You can just log in.
And Rachel, I'm watching the Q&A, and Bill, I don't know if you're in a position to unmute yourself, but you have a question, and the question is Bill doing research on marigolds?
Hi, Bill.
Hi, everyone. Yes, we are doing some variety trials on marigolds and how we can produce them late in the season to support the Day of the Dead cultural holiday. And if you tune in next week, maybe I will share a little bit of that research with you. So please join us next week.
Thanks, Bill. All right. I'm just going to wait a couple more seconds. And if anybody has any further questions for any of our panelists tonight speaking, please do put them in the Q&A, or if you have something for Matt or Bill or Diane, they're all on here too. We can discuss that in a moment. All right, I'm going to close the poll. I'm not sure if I see any questions here, Matt. I think those were answered. I appreciate all the comments in the chat. Thank you everyone for joining us. And if you do have questions, you can always reach us in the future. You know, my email was in the beginning of my presentation. I know Virginia had hers, so reach out to any one of us at any time. You can always ask any questions or, you know, comments, things like that. Great, thank you so much. I hope everyone has a good evening.